The firefighters arrived at a golf course. One guy said he was driving the cart speeding around a bunker, but when he turned too fast, the cart flipped over. It landed right on top of his friend Todd. He tried to flip the cart back up, but Todd started screaming under it. The firefighters quickly moved the stuff off the cart. Stella looked closer. Todd had a broken golf club stuck between his ribs. She told him don't move. Captain Casey called for an ambulance and told the team to grab the Sawzall cribbing and ram. They checked and saw the other end of the golf club was stuck in the basket. That's why it hurt when the man tried to move the cart. He freaked out and ran to Todd, remembering he'd read somewhere that pulling out an impaled object could cause someone to bleed out and die. Casey said we're not pulling it out, the hospital will handle that. The man kept saying sorry to Todd and wanted to call Todd's wife, just in case he died. Todd looked terrified. Casey stepped in fast. Todd's gonna be okay, he said. I need you to help keep him calm.
Stay tough.
I'll be okay, Todd.
Shut up, Derek!
Stella used the Sawzall to cut the golf club. Then Mouch used the ram to lift the cart. They pulled Todd out safe and sound. Firefighters responded to a call from an industrial warehouse. A worker named Phil backed a forklift into the shelves, causing everything to collapse on top of him. The place was a total mess. Phil was lying among the fallen shelves, his legs crushed under a heavy steel beam. There was a lot of blood. His nail beds had turned blue, meaning he was in shock. Dawson quickly stabilized his neck with a C-collar and said they needed to warm him up. They had to get him out fast. Kelly called for a torch, saying we need to cut this beam. A candidate asked in confusion, why don't we just lift it? Kelly explained it's too unstable. If anything moves, it'll all collapse back onto him. As Kelly started cutting the beam, Casey suddenly noticed flammable liquid nearby that was leaking. He yelled urgently to stop using the torch, but it was too late. Fire erupted immediately. The firefighters quickly put out the flames. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but the beam still hadn't been cut. Candidate Mills suddenly brought another beam and suggested using it to pry the heavy beam off Phil. They were running out of time, so they had no choice but to try. Finally, the beam lifted successfully. Phil was rescued. Kelly praised Mills, saying, quick thinking candidate. Firefighters were called to a car accident scene. They saw two children sitting by the roadside shivering. Paramedic Sylvie quickly approached and learned that their car had crashed, and their dad told them to wait there while he went back for Lizzie. Upon hearing there were more victims, the firefighters rushed to help. A man was sitting against a tree, clearly injured. Nearby, a car had overturned with a tree branch piercing the windshield. When Lieutenant Casey went to check, he was shocked to find Lizzie trapped inside. As firefighters helped the injured man, he cried out in pain. Stella cut open his pant leg and found he had a compound fracture and had lost a lot of blood. The man explained he was there because he could only get reception up on the road. Dawson asked in disbelief, you walked back and forth on this leg? He replied, I had to get them out. Meanwhile, firefighters quickly cut open the car with rescue tools. Lizzie was successfully freed. Luckily, she wasn't seriously hurt, but when she saw her injured father, she was heartbroken.
No, please, I have to go with him. I have to be with my dad. He would never leave me.
With Chief Bowden's okay, Dawson told Lizzie she could ride with her dad in the ambulance.
Come on, kiddo.
A call came in for an apartment fire. A girl frantically ran over and said Maggie's trapped upstairs. When Chief Bowden learned only one person was trapped inside, he ordered Kelly's squad team to ladder up for the rescue, while directing Casey's team to vent the roof to buy squad more time. Kelly and Cruz quickly climbed to the window. Kelly smashed the glass with his helmet and entered the room. Almost immediately, they heard a young girl crying for help. Kelly located the girl, and with Cruz's assistance from the window, she was pulled to safety. Just then, Kelly noticed signs of an imminent backdraft inside. Realizing the danger and that there wasn't enough time for proper roof ventilation, he made a split-second decision. He ripped off his helmet and air mask and jumped from the third-story window to escape the explosion. Kelly was injured in the fall. Paramedics Dawson and Sylvie rushed to him. He was conscious but had a weak pulse. They immediately transported him to the hospital. At the hospital, after examination, the good news was that Kelly could move his hands and feet, so paralysis was ruled out. But the bad news was that his fall injuries meant he couldn't safely receive the epidural anesthesia typically required for his scheduled bone marrow donation procedure. This put the planned donation for Anna, who later became his romantic partner, in jeopardy. Kelly was determined to help her. He pleaded his case, even speaking with Sharon Goodwin, insisting they proceed despite the pain he'd endure. After his relentless push, the doctors agreed to perform the marrow extraction without anesthesia. The procedure involved drilling into his hip while he was fully conscious. Kelly endured the excruciating pain, and the necessary marrow was successfully collected, allowing Anna to finally receive her transplant.
The doctor only wanted to check the patient's toes, but the next second, a toe suddenly fell off completely. It was clear that the man was very unhappy.
He broke my toe.
Just a moment ago, the intern was making routine rounds, but the man who was scheduled for surgery tomorrow completely ignored the doctor's pre-op instructions not to eat. He kept eating a cheeseburger. The doctor was helpless and could only check the man's toes first. He didn't expect that just by touching it, the toe would fall off completely.
The toe's already dead, I just touched it.
At this moment, Dr. Hawkins rushed over and told the man, "You have severe gangrene. We're amputating your whole foot." Only then did the man calm down. After the surgery, the doctor successfully removed the man's damaged foot. As compensation for knocking off the toe, the intern treated the man to a pizza.
Not with pineapple.
All right.
Give it to the nurses then.
You leave with that pizza. I'll put one of your feet in a jar. Have a slice, doctor.
A man named Vince checked into the hospital and immediately discovered a shocking secret. The hospital was actually an alien lab on Earth. All the doctors and nurses were alien bird people in disguise, and Vince was just an experiment. As he tried to stay calm and find a way to escape, several alien bird creatures suddenly rushed at him. Terrified, Vince waved his arms wildly, trying to scare them off. As the doctor walked toward him, Vince froze in fear. Because Foreman was clearly a bioengineered soldier, he spotted a birdman carrying a basket filled with biobombs. Without thinking, Vince grabbed a bomb and hurled it at the biosoldier. Flames erupted around his attacker, and Vince ran toward the elevator, but a bioqueen emerged from inside disguised as a female doctor. As she reached for him, Vince spun around and ran, but collided directly into another biosoldier. Finally, Vince was captured. Strangely, the biosoldiers around him soon transformed into normal-looking doctors. He saw a giant bird-beaked monster outside the window. Vince was shocked when the creature crashed through the window, roaring and moving toward him. What illness could Vince have? A day earlier, Vince's hand had started burning painfully. Doctors examined his hand thoroughly but found nothing. They concluded he had complex regional pain syndrome and decided to treat him with spinal stimulation therapy. But as soon as the tests began, Vince suddenly couldn't breathe. His heart rate shot up to 140 and continued rising. Doctors then found fluid building up in his lungs. They realized it wasn't complex regional pain syndrome, it was a heart problem. Just before they began treatment, they discovered two unfamiliar doctors in Vince's room. Due to repeated misdiagnoses, Vince no longer trusted Dr. Foreman. He had posted online offering $5,000 for anyone who correctly diagnosed him. So these two doctors came to the hospital suggesting Vince had a brain tumor. Vince completely believed them. His regular doctors had to perform a brain scan to prove he didn't have a tumor before they could treat his thrombocytosis. But even that diagnosis was wrong. Right after medication, Vince's lymph nodes began to swell. At this point, Vince refused to believe Foreman no matter what. He posted another reward online, this time $200,000 for a correct diagnosis. Soon the internet was flooded with countless diagnoses, with a thick stack of printed suggestions arriving daily. To stop this madness, Foreman personally disproved each diagnosis in front of Vince, but Vince wouldn't listen. He grouped online diagnoses and found amyloidosis appeared most frequently. He demanded doctors treat him for amyloidosis. Yet just one day into treatment, another strange thing happened. Vince suddenly ran downstairs alone. He was horrified to discover the hospital was an alien experimental base. Bird aliens holding guns everywhere. Dr. Foreman was a biosoldier. The female doctor was a bioqueen, and outside was a huge bird monster waiting to devour him. Foreman examined him quickly and realized his extremely high fever was causing hallucinations. They immediately placed Vince into ice water to lower his temperature. After reviewing symptoms again, Foreman diagnosed Vince with light chain deposition disease. This illness caused massive protein buildup in organs, explaining all of Vince's symptoms. He needed immediate high-dose chemotherapy or he wouldn't survive the next 24 hours. Facing death, Vince finally agreed. Foreman, thinking everything was over, took a relaxing shower, but seeing his fingers wrinkled from soaking in water, he suddenly had an idea. He ran back to Vince's room demanding they stop chemotherapy immediately. Foreman realized Vince actually had Fabry disease, because after an hour in cold water, Vince's fingers hadn't wrinkled at all. Surprisingly, the female doctor had already stopped chemotherapy, having switched treatments after noticing a recent online comment suggesting Fabry disease. Out of curiosity, she tested Vince and confirmed the diagnosis. What none of them would ever know was that this accurate online diagnosis had been posted by none other than Dr. House, who had just quit and left the hospital.